Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love and kindness and mercy that's new every morning. We thank you for this day of grace, and thank you that we can be your children, born again Christians. We pray that you'll help us to be a blessing to our children and grandchildren. We thank you that we can have fellowship with George and Jean on this table. We ask you to bless us together. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Who made the plumamos?
I did. I should have been red hand.
He does everything. I don't do anything anymore.
I tried not to put very much salt in the meatloaf, but I didn't put much salt in the meatloaf. I put a lot less than usual.
It sure is good.
But it still it doesn't taste like there's
it's
too
just
much
right.
missing.
It's real good.
It's better with corn on top of it, though.
Well, I'll have to try that.
Makes it more juicy.
I like the juice anyway. You always made the best meatloaf anybody I ever ate, any place I've ever eaten it.
Looks like you guessed right, honey.
She can beat me all to pieces making meatloaf.
It's the only thing I ever made that I didn't have a recipe for.
You just
Not a
put it
complete.
together.
Well, I had a couple different recipes, and I didn't have all the ingredients in either one of them, so I took a little bit out of each one and put them together and added some rice, which wasn't in either one of them. That wrote out a meatloaf recipe.
Oh.
But hers, she crumbled crackers in it, and she had green pepper in it, which I've never put in it. But she used the eggs and the tomato sauce. But I used bread, fresh bread, instead of crackers, which doesn't make a lot of difference, I guess. But, and then I don't know where I got the idea of putting rice in it. I think I read that in some other recipe.
I put rice in it sometimes, but not every time. I seem like I always put rice in it years ago.
Maybe that's where I got the idea. Maybe I knew that's the way you did it.
Sometimes I just put bread in, and sometimes I put the rice instead of bread.
Was meatloaf a fairly new dish, or was that something you had when you were small? When did they start making meatloaf?
I don't know.
I've made it a lot.
Well, you made
I've
clumps,
had it
though.
Yeah.
Clumps is like making meatloaf, only you put it in patties and fry it. I mean, you mix bread and egg and salt and pepper in it.
Yeah.
Almost the same.
How do you spell that?
I spell clumps.
Clumps.
K-L-U-P.
K-L-O-P-S. Clumps. Clumps.
Is that High German or Low German?
It's a Low German.
How do you, what does that word mean, actually? What does that word mean? Does it mean a patty, or does it mean meat, or what? Or a mixture, or?
I don't know what, they just said that they had clumps for dinner, and then you know that was some hamburger meat.
You don't remember what it is in English, huh?
You can't imagine it's hamburger, huh? Ground beef.
Well, I know Schinkefleisch means pig meat.
Yeah.
Well, let's see now, you talk Low German all week and High German on Sunday? What was it on Sunday? If it was Klops on Saturday?
No.
You didn't warm up any pudding.
Didn't have a High German word for that. Huh?
No, just, you know, now like there are lots of words that, like borscht, that's a Russian word, and we use that for High German and Low German, and even here in America. You need it for all for the same thing.
You know, Margie Merriman and her sister, Carolyn Doctor,
Yeah.
at church the other day, they were talking about her mother. Well, it was Carolyn Doctor's mother-in-law who came to visit them, and they said every time she comes, they had her make cheese. What did she call them? Cheese pockets? Cheese dimples? Something like that. She called them. The way she described them, she says, well, you make like a noodle dough, roll it out and make little squares, and then you put this little bit of cottage cheese in there and fold it over and drop it in boiling water. And but then they didn't put a ham gravy on them. After they dropped them in boiling water, then they fried them, I think. And they didn't put anything on them. They just ate them that way. But I said, well, that sounds just like Veronica's.
I was wishing you'd bring some Veronica.
I thought about that too. I was trying to decide whether to make that Veronica hot dish or this.
Remember how to make it anymore.
Can you fork out another
I've got
piece of
it.
meatloaf?
You use a package of stuff, of noodles, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a package here. I'll give you if you'll make me some.
Put some corn in there too.
I've got it out several times, thinking I'd make it, and I just couldn't think how it was supposed to be done.
Sounds like Grandpa's stomach's growling.
Is that
Coffee
clock doing that way?
Coffee wasn't hot enough.
Oh,
I had coffee and it was too cold. I warmed it up and turned it off too soon.
Well, did you fill out your census form and mail it back? Did you have the short form or the long form?
Short form.
How many kinds of questions did you have to answer then?
14.
You have to answer your nationality and that kind of thing?
First of all, when born, what day?
Did you put my nationality?
I didn't know what to put for mine.
Me
I
either.
put half German Dutch and half I was going to put Duke's mixture, but I didn't think they'd accept that. So I didn't know what to call it. What did you put down for Mom?
No, I just put down
English?
German.
You did?
Yeah, well, I said I changed. She's a German wife now. And where it came to the age, I put her born in 1898, and they had those little black dots that you had to color, you know, and so on, and that's about the size of it.
Well, we got the long form. We had to answer questions like, what was our average gas bill for the year, and our average electrical bill, and our house payments, and how much money we made, and well, I guess they sent about every 10th one. They send the long form with more questions, and then they take an average from that and try to figure out what the national average is.
Boy, that sounds pretty warm in there.
Yeah.
So you can warm mine up while you're here.
Yeah. Well,
Did you just get that pot?
Huh?
Did you just get that pot?
Yeah.
We've had that pot for
We bought that in Enid and
as
from
older
Bell's Jewelers.
Carrie is.
Yeah.
We bought that from Bell's Jewelers in Fairview. Enid.
I think I bought that along about the time that I sent you that, was it a waffle iron I sent you?
Yeah, that was our first anniversary.
Take a little piece of
I
meat.
think I bought our coffee pot about the same time. I was in Bell's Jewelry, and no, we had that in Wisconsin.
Well,
that pot.
this happened, what you did for her, that happened before Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was only a year after we were married when you sent me that waffle iron.
Yeah.
Well, I got that waffle iron at a different time. I didn't get it at the same time because we were already living in, I don't know.
No, we were not living in.
You brought it along to Wisconsin.
You were already married by then.
Oh, yeah. No, that coffee pot, we bought that when we sent her that.
That waffle iron. So that means it's 24 years old.
To the age of Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
I still wish I could have been in the house when Julie was running after her Easter eggs.
Yeah, I haven't even seen that picture you were talking about.
When she's running after what?
Easter eggs. Easter candy that they hid.
She got a great big Easter bunny. They didn't hide a lot of candy this year.
Oh.
They had the basket, but the great big Easter bunny, and boy, she sure got excited about that Easter bunny.
No.
Was it
I
candy?
find candy, I guess, as she kept saying.
And she had the biggest smile on her face. Julie, very happy.
She sure is smart,
Yeah.
isn't she?
She really
Wonder
communicates
where
well.
she gets that from.
Can't imagine.
Grandpa and great-grandpa.
She is smart for her age, I think.
Well, it seems like she can reason so well. You know, she can think and remember yesterday and think about
Have some
tomorrow.
more cherry mousse, George?
That was pretty good. We got
Yeah.
some apple pie too, though.
Ooh.
So do you want some anyhow?
Yeah, you have to be careful what you tell Julie now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She doesn't forget.
Oh.
I was over there, let's see, what was that, Tuesday night? And I took her out for a little walk, and when we finally got back in, she cried, so I took her out for another walk, and we
Took an apple.
took an apple over to some horses, and the horses ate the apple, and then I took her in, and then she cried and cried.
Oh.
So I finally said, well, tomorrow night I'll come and pick you up after work, and then we'll go out again. And then she quit crying.
Oh.
Well, as I was getting ready to leave work then, I had a fellow stop in and visit just as I was leaving. So I was about half an hour late getting to Julie's house. She had her coat on and she wanted to go outside and wait for Papa.
Mm-hmm.
And
I never saw
For half
such
an
a
hour, they had to
kid
keep
that
telling
age
her.
that was that smart.
They
Yeah.
had to keep saying, just wait, he's coming. And she kept looking out the window, where's Papa?
so you have to be careful what you tell her now.
Yeah.
She might tell off on you, huh?
Yeah.
They took her to the zoo yesterday,
Mm.
the big Minneapolis Zoo,
Yeah.
where they've got a lot of inside exhibits. And I didn't hear them say too much about it except the whale. There's a whale that you can stand outside the glass and look underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken said that whale kept coming over the top like this, and he'd rub his back on the glass and make circles like that. And he just kept going round and round, and he'd rub his back right down the glass as he went by, come with his head at it. And Ken and Roxanne had said a couple times, they had said, here he comes, and there he goes. And pretty soon Julie was, every time he'd come around, she'd say, here he comes, there he goes.
I don't know if I ever had one that smart or not.
You're
She
gonna have
likes
to.
baby Sarah.
You're gonna have to. When the other one grows up, you're gonna have to be awful careful, not to be partial
not
to
to-
one or the other.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun problem.
Well, she's got a pretty baby, I'll say that. I think she's awful pretty. She's just like a doll. And she looks so much like Kathy did when she was a baby.
Yeah.
She sure does.
Mhm.
I always thought Kathy was such a pretty baby.
Pretty nice little mommy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
She hasn't been back to work yet, has she?
No.
She's not gonna go back to the restaurant.
Mike?
She's not.
Oh, no. I knew that.
She's gonna work in the office.
Hey, how's that manager working out?
Really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a really nice personality,
Mm-hmm.
and he's enthusiastic, and everybody seems to like him. And the
He's really doing well. The customers like him.
That makes good business.
Jerry and Jim Heckman from the other restaurant, they say that it just seems like they work so much better together, and they feel like they'll be able to do more things with both stores working at it.
Yeah.
So it sounds good.
Well, how did they make meatloaf in the old country?
They just made it in patties.
Just crops. And have no meatloaf.
No meatloaf.
That's something you
Right.
remember
They
eating?
had a different way of cooking it though, didn't you?
Fried it.
Put it in a frying pan.
Mhm.
They didn't
Fried all the
have,
grease
they
out of it.
didn't have ovens. What they had, well, they had ovens, but they were great big fireplace ovens.
Mm.
Yeah. And Mom would bake 6 or 7 loaves of bread at a time. And she had a pan, well, it probably was as wide as this. And she'd had 2, and she'd put a stool, iron stool, in the fire with a long wooden handle and set it down, and then she'd take the bread.
Thought you lost a tooth.
Yeah. And she'd shove that up on top of that. Then she'd put another stool out of iron, made out of iron so they wouldn't tilt. And then she'd put a pan on there too. And
The big pan, did they have lids on them?
no, just flat
open
pans,
pans?
just open pans, and they had a little edge on
Did
the
they
edge.
have a door that you could close the oven?
Mhm. Yeah, they had a door.
What was it made out of? Was the oven made out of metal then?
Yeah, the oven was made out of brick,
Mm-hmm. And the door?
and the door was metal.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a metal hinge on it, opened up like this, and it was this wide and this big around. Well, so she'd shove that bread in the far back, and then she'd take this other pan full of bread in there, and then she'd shut the door and walk off and leave it for about an hour or so.
It had fire in the bottom, just like a fireplace?
No,
Oh,
it had the coal in it,
oh.
and she'd set that right on top of the coal, and the coal would glow and just.
Oh. So the fire was in the oven too, but there wasn't enough oxygen in there for it to flame up.
Mm-mm. No.
So that the coals would just keep glowing. The
The
door
coal-
probably leaked enough so that some air could get in.
The coal was just glow. You could just see it glow, and then when she opened the door, you could see the coal glow. And then when that was all done, why, then she'd take the bread out and.
She couldn't set the temperature for 350 or 375?
No,
You get some pretty crusty bread once in a while?
no, it always had pretty good crust on it.
You did.
Yeah.
Was it tough?
Mm-mm.
Crust?
No, not for a kid my size of teeth. It was all right. It might have been now, but then it wasn't then. And
She makes ZWIEBACK in there too?
she made ZWIEBACK, and she had that big thing all full of ZWIEBACK. And if there's a wedding in town, Mom had to make the dough. And they somehow or another didn't know how to mix a big batch of dough to make ZWIEBACK. and they'd bring it out to her, and Mom mixed that big dough up and give each one of them a lump of dough to the neighbors, 3 or 4 neighbors, and then Mom could keep some, and she'd bake that. And then when it was time, evening time, Pete and I had to take a big basket made out of wicker basket that was full of ZWIEBACK, and we had to go to the wedding house where the wedding was and bring them to ZWIEBACK.
Was the wedding in a church or in another building, or what?
They were in the house.
In a house? Usually at the homes of the people involved?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when my cousin Marie Weedle got married, they had it in their house. And before the wedding, they made the house, every evening they had an invite out. And the couple would come and visit, and they'd have dinner with us, and then dinner with the next one, and so on. And then when the wedding night was, well, then it's
And you all got paid back for serving them dinner. You got to go eat at their house.
yeah, we had to eat at their house.
And they usually had ZWIEBACK and
ZWIEBACK
ham and
ham or plumamos.
Their refrigerator was their basement.
Yeah, we didn't have no refrigerator. Everything was
Just had a cool cellar down there?
cool cellar.
Did you have any ice in it then?
No.
You didn't have an ice house or anything like that with straw?
That country was cold. In the wintertime, it started getting cold in October, snow under, and it'd stay in March. And
Colder than here?
yeah,
well, they were pretty close to Siberia.
it was
Well, it's the same latitude as we are.
yeah.
Tashkent.
It was
About the
now
4th.
here where you have every now and then you have a thaw in January, to warm up,
Yeah.
and over there it didn't. It stayed ice and just stayed like that. And we used the sleds to go to church. Had to get
Well,
on the
didn't
sled.
those Arabs clean your snow off for you?
They didn't work for it. They didn't do anything. We just had one hired man, and he wouldn't didn't have to go to church if Dad was, but a lot of people, they took them along, and they always had stallions hooked onto the sled or a carriage. And those were young, 2 years old, and they'd always want to fight, and they had to sit there and keep the horses from tearing each other apart.
What was funny to me is everybody had a man working for them that was a hired hand, and then he drove him to church, but he had to sit out in the car and wait till church was over. He wasn't allowed to go into church.
He wasn't allowed. He wouldn't do it.
Well, I think, wasn't that one of the conditions too of the Mennonites colonies down there, that they couldn't bring other people into their...
No, I don't think that was the case. But these people, they were so strict Muslims that they wouldn't
Daddy said
they wouldn't take
every
our
little bit they'd have their...
Oh, no,
you call it?
3 times a day.
They brought Mecca.
They would spread their take the overcoat off and spread it on the ground, and then they'd kneel down and pray to Allah. And they did that morning and noon and night, just
I
as
thought
regular.
you had one that was your steady one that you kept all the time.
Yeah.
Same one.
Yeah, we had Kartai. He was working for us, and he even had married, and then all at once he married 2 wives after he got a little wealthier. And then
He wasn't too bright, was he?
No. And then he had two teepees. They lived in teepees made out of animal
The
hide,
wives couldn't
just
live
exactly
together.
like an Indian would
I believe that.
just exactly like an Indian teepee, and then the top had a little hole in it where the smoke would go out. And that Kartai, that man, that when he married his first wife, she was a pretty little woman, And then he married the second one, and those women couldn't get along. They was fighting and pulling hair like cats and dogs.
The women,
Yeah, the women started fighting.
I'd fight somebody one if they'd start making love to you.
And now this guy that was working for us, well,
You would, huh?
you wouldn't fight over me. I told you that I was the last one to come around, and there was not nobody's face to pick out, so I had to take what was left. And it's as ugly as homemade fence, mud fence.
What are you talking about?
But by faith.
She was the last chance you had, he said. You didn't have any other chances left. He was the last one?
Yeah, I was the one. That Kartai, he was worked for us so long, and he learned to talk a little German. And every now and then, Mother made schnettchen. And they were made so much out of shortening. They were just all shortening, you know. And then sometimes I'd ask Mom if I could have a schnettchen, I'd go outside and eat. And then when he'd see that schnettchen, he said, "Give me eine. Give me one." And I said, "No," I said, they got hoglard in it. I don't care. He said it in low German.
They weren't supposed to
That's
have
all right.
anything but hoglard
And-
in it.
And I said, "Well," I said, "if you want to." So I went in the house and got one, and he ate it.
Then was there only
Get
that
me in
one?
my mouth wide
And there was
open.
there
The
was
only
only
one that
that
became a Christian?
that Ahmed was the only one that became a Christian.
And he was a blind one, huh?
He was the blind one. He was the Christian. He'd come to church. Now these other people, they could have come to church too, but they wouldn't do it. They were afraid of the rest of them.
Okay, did any of the Mennonite people ever go to a Muslim mosque or church?
Never. We went by those mosques, and but then Dad might have been in one of them, but then we never were allowed to go in there. It was just us kids, and they were all made like this, dome like that, and a spiral up high. Every one of them was made like that. What I liked when we were in town, but when somebody had died, they rang the church bells. It had such a sad tone.
Oh, at the mosques, you mean, or
Yeah,
at
the mosque. They'd ring the bell.